Okay.
Buffalo Street Emporium, right down the street.
The only other one was Lewis?
Yeah, he's trying to get on.
Oh, is he?
Did you give him the new numbers?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Joel, I appreciate it. Okay. Glad I've done a few of these. Make sure your mics are on as well.
Tell me when Tommy comes on and we can start.
Okay, I think we're there.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the May 6th Traffic Safety Commission meeting. We're holding this virtually and hoping everyone is doing well. And we want to welcome Joel Beam back, as well as the people that are here right now with us. Mayor Tallmer and Cindy Dobbins, David Albritton, and myself, Lance Grubbs. We have people that have logged on, and we want to hear from you if you can right now. Jeremy Skinner, are you here?
Come unmute.
You may need to unmute.
Connie Wrigley?
Jeremy Skinner, are you here? Jack Wilhite, are you here?
Present.
Thank you, Jack. Connie Fribley?
I'm here.
Thank you, Connie. Jeff Beeler?
I'm here.
Here.
Thank you, Jeff. David Robertson?
I'm here.
And David Albritton is here. Lewis Fuller, are you on yet?
I am on.
Very good. Thank you, Lewis. Scott Whitaker is here as well. All right. Anybody else out there listening in that we should acknowledge? Okay. I'm going to turn this portion over to Mayor Joe Tallmer, and he's going to give the oath of office to our new member, David Albritton.
All right. Thank you, Lance. David Albritton is a citizen appointee from my office. We're welcoming him to the Traffic Commission. David's got quite a background of law enforcement. He's been a community member for as long as I can remember, which is a long time. So we're excited to have him on board. David will do well, and I'm just excited for him to give his commitment with a little bit of feedback here. Somebody's echoing my sentiments as well, so we're, again, happy to have you here. I always thank those that are willing to give their time to stand up in front of the public and try and do what's right on behalf of the community. A lot of times it's not easy, but it needs to be done, and we're most appreciative of your willingness to do that. So with that being said, David, if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, David Albritton.
I, David Albritton.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
And the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
And that I will faithfully, impartially, and diligently.
And that I will faithfully, impartially, and diligently.
Discharge my duties.
Discharge my duties.
As a member of the Traffic Safety Commission.
As a member of the Traffic Safety Commission.
For the City of Warsaw, Indiana.
For the City of Warsaw, Indiana.
According to the law.
According to the law.
And to the best of my ability.
And to the best of my ability.
All right. Thank you, David. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'd shake your hand, but that's not permitted in this day and age. So I'll have you sign and print your name on both of these and then pass them back down, and you'll be ready to take part.
Thank you.
David, you want to give us a little brief background of what you've been through here?
Sure. My wife and I, we've been residents here in Warsaw since 1993. We have 2 sons, one of whom is married. I've recently completed 32 years of government service, primarily working up in the South Bend, Indiana area. And I find myself this time just enjoying some leisure.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us, and hopefully you can help us out here. Oral or written communications, the meeting minutes from March 4th, 2020. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to to view them. Do we have any discussion about the minutes? No discussion. We'll need someone to move to accept them.
I would move to approve the minutes from March 4th, 2020.
All right, Cindy, thank you.
I'll second that.
Connie Fribley seconds. We'll go through here, and for the voting members, Cindy Dobbins. Aye or
Aye.
nay? Jeremy Skinner? Aye or nay? An aye for Jeremy. Joel Beam?
Aye.
Jack Wilhite?
Aye.
Connie Fribley?
Aye.
Jeff Beeler?
Aye.
David Robertson?
Aye.
David Albritton?
Aye.
And Louis Fuller?
Aye.
All right, we're passed. No oppositions. Thank you very much. Unfinished business. We're finishing up, hopefully, with the 500 block East Market Street handicap parking. Jeremy, can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, it's been a few months, but my last conversation, as I recall, with Larry wasn't overly in favor of trying to put a handicap parking space down in the lane they kind of use as their maintenance drive. I wouldn't say that he was completely opposed to it, but he saw some complications with it. So I don't know if we want to continue that discussion, or if we want to just keep with the handicap parking space on the street, within the parking block on the street.
Okay, in case you didn't hear, Jeremy says that there was an opposition on putting a handicap parking spot off the street near the restrooms or basketball courts, but we want to decide whether we want to just limit them to just 2 of them, I believe, on Market Street between the discount store and all the way down to the football field.
Well, I certainly...
Lance, this is Scott.
Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, just a quick question in regards to the amount of work involved, I guess even financially, in the off-street handicap. Would that entail having to make the drive paved as well, or concrete? And how large of a pad would be required, or is this something that we're looking to do just, you know, I guess with what's currently there, the base that's currently there?
Mayor, do you want to tackle that?
I had talked to Larry about his preferences there. We thought it might be a little bit safer and easier, but I don't think the long-term plan is for that to be parking or a drive. And to that end, Larry thought it'd be a more permanent solution to just put it in the road. And that's as far as I know. I know we could have further discussion with Larry, but I know their park plan did not involve parking in that area. And they were gonna, I don't know if they're gonna try and discourage it, but it was more of an access drive that they didn't really want to develop any further than what it was. So that seemed to be his concern.
Cindy?
I would probably be sensitive to Larry's thoughts and concerns on that. In particular, I know there's probably a little danger with having it on the street, but then again, if you're having parking inside off the street, you're still probably going to have people walking and passing through there, so perhaps no different, and I would certainly want to follow Larry's recommendations.
Anyone else?
Just going to explain for Dave maybe what the issue is to catch him up to speed. There's a requirement that we have so many parking spaces for handicap along the new road there. And the one thought was to try and move it off the road because it'd be a little safer for a handicapped individual potentially to get in and out of the car, with Market Street being a little bit narrower. There was an opportunity along inside of the mixed-use path, between the mixed-use path and the park area there. The Parks Department primarily uses that when they service the restrooms and pick up trash and maintain the park. And I don't believe that there was, although the idea was good, I think the opposition was that they did not want that to be parking in there. So Larry has asked, at least his recommendation would be to leave it on the street, and I think that's where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Jeremy, again, the number of spaces are just based on the requirements, the Uniform Traffic Code requirements, is that correct?
Yeah, so the actual parking requirement is on off-street parking. So this being on-street parking, it's not necessarily a requirement that we put so many handicap parking spaces. This came up with a number of residents in that area, and also to provide handicap parking for the activities that occur inside the park. So we contemplated putting some handicap parking spaces in this area. The other thing we can look at in the future is, we've had some conversation about acquiring some more property that may lead to off-street parking. At that time, we could put some handicap spacing in those off-street parking areas that would probably be better suited than this area, this maintenance lane that they use to mow and maintain the park in the future. I don't know what the timing on that is, but if we were to acquire some additional property and eventually put in an off-street parking area, that would allow us better access and better service for those that need those ADA requirements.
So, yeah, Jeremy, you're not coming in too loud and clear, so I'll just repeat this and correct me if I didn't interpret it correctly, but your suggestion number one is that there's not a required amount of handicap spaces. We just were responding to requests by residents in that area, as well as from the Parks Department to provide handicap spaces for those taking advantage of maybe watching their grandkids play football or something. With the potential acquisition of property to the east of the Fribley Field, there might be a better opportunity to put handicap spaces in there in the future. So that's kind of your suggestion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So I don't know if you want to vote on just creating those spaces
Yeah, how many
on street.
how many spots are we looking at?
Jeremy, you're looking at 2 spots?
Yes, 2 spots. One spot would be down by Fribley Field. The other spot would be up by the shopping strip mall area.
Closer, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do we need someone to move to make a motion?
I would move to approve the placement of 2 on-street handicap parking spots, one near the shopping plaza and one near Fribley Field.
Have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right.
Who was that?
Jack.
Jack?
Jack? All right, thank you. Let's take a vote then. Aye or nay? Cindy Dobbins?
Aye.
Jeremy Skinner?
Aye.
Joel Beam?
Aye.
Jack Wilhite?
Aye.
Connie Fribley?
Aye.
Jeff Beeler?
Nay.
Was that a nay?
Yes.
Correct.
David Robertson?
Aye.
David Albritton?
Aye.
Louis Fuller?
Aye.
All right. Jeff, is there a reason for the nay?
So I understand we have them around town on the streets and they've been there forever. With this being a newly constructed project and the road being narrowed to control traffic flow, I'm nervous about putting a handicap parking spot in a narrow road which will not allow for it to be used as it's to be intended, without having it laid out the way a handicap spot should be. I have concerns that by just throwing paint on the ground, if something were to happen, it would be stated, was this handicap spot designed to be a handicap spot? And our answer will have to be, no, it was not. I have concerns with if an incident were to occur to someone, just putting paint on the road does not necessarily mean that the slot for the parking area was made for that capacity. Now, if a handicapped person chooses to park in a spot that is not marked handicapped and something happens, that was their choice. But by the city designating a spot that is for that purpose and it not necessarily being designed for that purpose, I think I have concerns with that.
What would it take us for us to design a parking spot for that purpose?
That wouldn't probably be above my pay grade. You know, there are a lot of rules and slopes and stuff designed which have to be followed when they do, you know, off-street parking and different things. And I know there are some graces allowed when you do on-street stuff, but to know exactly how all that would be, I don't know if I would be the right one to ask that, other than I did do research on different stuff, and it's a lot of the places go to the point of if someone needs to park close, you know, and they park there, then that's great for them, but for the city to designate it for that specific use, but it not necessarily being designed for that, I just think it opens up a door, and you know, it's just one of those double-edged swords, and I just had that concern.
Is the concern the slope, or is the concern the width?
So yeah, when you have ADA, wherever that person exits the vehicle, say they go out and, you know, they have to get through to get their wheelchair out or whatever, it needs to be flat in a certain area. Like when you go to a parking stall, there's a crosshatched area beside the handicap spot. Well, that crosshatch area is perfectly flat. That way, when they put their wheelchair out, it doesn't roll away from them or whatever. So it's designed in a way that stuff should, you know, be convenient for them. There's more room for them to open their door, because generally a normal, you know, an unhandicapped person can open the door, get out, and close it. And generally with a handicap, to go and then get their equipment out, the door is left open for a period of time to enable them to get those pieces of equipment out that they need. Well, with that road being narrow, once they open the door, that's 3-4 feet out in the street, because we intentionally had it narrowed for other reasons, and essentially that entire driving lane will be blocked for a vehicle, you know, travel. And so yeah, there's room and widths and slopes, and there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. And I was just afraid somebody, you know, goes through there and slings open their door, which it could happen to anybody. But I think it makes a heightened issue when they're out there for a longer period of time gathering the equipment that they need to help them move around, and something were to happen, and I just had concerns with it.
Well, I think the intention of the Traffic Commission is clear, that we want handicap spaces along Market Street, and my suggestion would be to take this vote and then look for the appropriate, if there are appropriate spots as far as the grade and the width somewhere along that area, and if so, those would, if they're appropriate, then that's where we'll put them. If not, then we'll have to revisit this issue. I don't think we can sit here and argue if you don't know where we're lacking. Let's do a little research and see if there are spots that could be modified to become handicap spaces along there.
This is Jeremy. To answer Jeff's concerns or questions, hopefully you can hear me, but in general, the ADA organization does not have any design requirements for on-street parking. So there wouldn't be any necessarily requirements that we are not meeting because there are no requirements. I think it would be incumbent upon us to assume or make some kind of assumption that we provided it as safely as possible. But there won't be any requirements or design requirements that we could look to and say, yes, it met this, yes, it met that. All of their design requirements are for off-street parking. They are not for on-street parking.
And Jeremy is our ADA coordinator for the city, so I think his comments should be taken to light as we move ahead with this.
Very good. Any further discussion? Does anyone want to?
This is Jack.
Jack, go ahead.
That is a concern that I had not thought about. I think that we probably ought to, like Joe said, go forward with, these are our wishes, but we want to make sure that the design is correct. The fact that there are no current designs for on-street parking like that for handicap, I think that speaks quite a bit right there. So maybe it's not even possible. I don't know. But I agree with Joe. I think before the street department actually implements it or does something, we need to look into it a little bit further. I don't know how we get out of this boat other than to state it that way.
At this point, would anyone want to change their vote? If so, speak up. Hearing none.
I think I would probably have to change mine.
Jack, you said you would change yours to no?
Yeah, this is Jack. Yes, I would say no.
Anyone else? So we have 7 yes, 2 no. Anyone else like to comment? All right, it is approved. We'll move it along from here to let the city council take it from here. All right, next, new business. Lakeview Middle School, crossing signs needed. We had an email, you received an email, Mayor, and do you want to discuss what that is?
I had just passed that along to you. It was a local citizen who had concerns about the Lakeview Middle School crossing school zone. I don't believe it was the school zone signs as much as it was the signs. They wanted, I think, more signs to alert that there was a pedestrian crossing signal there. So I'll pass that on. I don't know if between Dave and Jeff, do we have what was required? Would an additional sign warning people of a pedestrian crosswalk be necessary, be helpful, be required? Again, those are the questions for a Traffic Safety Commission.
Yeah, I can certainly take a look at the specific request. I do know, and Jeff can speak up, I mean, we installed lights and crossing signs at the city did, at both of the crosswalks here a couple of years ago, and they are the same LED signs that we've installed in some other places, and so I'd love to take a look at the specific request for Lakeview.
Yeah, I know the work that we've done with the school corporation, the city and the school corporation has been collaborative, and we're certainly here to do whatever is necessary to respond to those safety needs. So I think if you want to look into that, and then you've got maybe next meeting you can report potentially what we need to do. We may be able to put those signs up without really any action if it's just enhancing what's already there, but we'll certainly go with your recommendations. Jeff, anything from street department on that?
No, I mean, more signs can definitely be added. There are 2 school advanced warning signs with speed limit reductions, and then prior to the crosswalk, there is a rectangular kind of state law sign that says you must yield to pedestrians within the crosswalk. So there are 2 kind of prior warning signs to that, but if another one's desired, I mean, we can always add more. You do just want to be careful that you don't have so many, that you cause one sign, another sign. But I think there's enough spacing there that if it's desired, we could add something else.
I will add that the local police department has done a great job in keeping the speeds down there. They have grant money that in school zones when school is in session, the start and the end of school, and they've done a great job there. I know that. So
in the past, this is Jeremy, in the past, I know we've had comments made about it not having enough light down there during certain times of the year. Is this a sign issue or is it a light issue? On the other 2 major projects we've done on Husky Trail and 300 North, we've had substantial lighting to enhance safety. Maybe we need to look at putting some lights in this area to address what may be a light issue more than a signage issue.
good point. Those trees make it a little darker there on the north side of the road. That could be the reason for it.
Yeah, this is David Robertson again. Sorry, I got disconnected for a second. Jeremy, I would agree that the parents that I speak to that have the most concerns there, it's usually more about a lighting issue than it is specifically the signage. So it can be, especially when with the time changes from time to time and how early we do have some students entering the building, it can be pretty dark along that Smith Street there.
Looking back at the request I got, the request was basically for a sign on the opposite side of the road so that there were actually double signs, if you will, facing the oncoming vehicle. So instead of it just being on one side, it was also on the other side. That was the request, and they compared it to Harrison, what's been done out there. And again, those were just the warning signs of the crosswalk. Let's see. I was hoping you could add a sign on the left side of the road as well as the same when you were going in the other direction. So again, it's a warning sign for the crosswalk. So that was the request, no more than that. So it'd be basically two signs on the opposite side of the road that pretty much...
Is this facing west?
Both ways.
Both ways.
Both directions for that crosswalk. So people coming towards the crosswalk from either side have two warning signs instead of one.
And the crosswalk that he's talking about, would that be at Scott Street?
Yeah, that's the lighted one that you can see right there. And that all flashes when they push the button. I mean, when it's activated, you can see it from quite a bit away. Mm-hmm. It's just all of a sudden it'll activate quickly, I guess, is the concern. And somebody could be right up on it, and I assume there's probably a little speed involved when that happens. That we just, if it's easily done and addresses those needs, I would still defer to the schools and what they've done out at Harrison. And if they think that adding additional lighting makes sense, that's something else we can look into.
Sounds like this is one that we need to table then and discuss, find out a little bit more.
Yeah, I can get with Jeff as well to talk a little bit about what might be able to be worked out for signage, but I think that should be pretty straightforward, and I think that request makes sense.
Very good. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I agree. Stay down at, we just need at Wood Street and then Scott. We'll just add 2 additional signs at each one of those. And then if he wants to do lighting, they can look at that. So that should be pretty easy.
Very good. So is everybody in agreement we need to table this then? All right. Do we need to vote on that? Yeah. All right.
Scott, I would encourage you to go ahead with the vote on the signs, and then they can move forward with further conversations on the lighting.
Can do that. Is that a form of a motion, Scott?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Yeah, he can't though. He's not a voting member.
True.
I see if the mayor is going to allow me to do so.
I'll make the motion.
Joel Beam is making that motion that we approve a sign for both sides.
And I'll second that one.
Yes.
And Jeremy seconded?
Jack second.
Jack second. All right, thank you. We'll have a vote then. Cindy Dobbins, yea or nay? Aye. Jeremy Skinner?
Aye.
Joel Beam?
Aye.
Jack Wilhite?
Aye.
Connie Fribley?
Aye.
Jeff Beeler?
Aye.
David Robertson?
Aye.
David Albritton?
Aye.
Louis Fuller?
Aye.
All right, thank you. The second portion of it, we will have Jeremy and Jeff take a look at. The sign is good. The second order of business, parking on both sides of the street on Pinecone Lane. Concerned that there is room for emergency vehicles to go through. Pinecone Lane, if you go north of Husky Trail, or actually on Husky Trail, the first addition, you turn right, and then the first road you turn left, and it'll take you to Pinecone Lane in that addition. We have photos here available. I took a drive down through there, and what you're looking at now is coming to Pinecone Lane, and there's a cul-de-sac there with houses on the left and right, and at the end, and then you turn right, and this is where you're looking headed east. There are mailboxes on both sides of the road. When I was there, I believe there was one car parked on the south side. The rest of them were on the north side. I'm not sure if they would have housing authority or their association, homeowners association, would have some kind of stipulations on parking on one or the other side. There are no signs there. I'm not sure that it is needed. Any discussion for that?
I'll say just a few words because I had a resident contact me that lives in that area, and he had sent some photos, particularly in the evening when cars are parked on both sides of the street. He was questioning the ability of fire trucks, emergency vehicles, and so forth to get through because it really did narrow the street considerably. And I don't know that this happens during the daytime as much as it does in the evenings. And again, one thing I did not think to ask him was about a neighborhood association.
That's probably what we need to look into. Homeowners Association may have some kind of stipulation on that. Any other discussion?
Jeff, with the street department, it has definitely been an issue for us with doing garbage and snow plowing, trying to get down between all of those. So it's definitely been difficult for us many different times as well.
I just brought it up too because I remember we addressed that situation. I can't remember what housing edition it was. It was a few years back where they were having some issues with parking on both sides of the street.
It was Park Ridge.
Jeremy, I assume the street widths meet city specifications, and I don't know that Homeowners Association has authority to limit parking on our roads. I would assume we'd have to create a no parking zone on one side if that was the appropriate solution. Asking you that question.
Yes, I would assume so too. This came up, I think that was Cindy that was talking earlier, if I'm not mistaken, but this has came up on Park Ridge as well. They had the same issue. Right now, we don't have any regulations that have in these subdivisions that say you can park on one side or the other. the conversations we've had in the past is should we put that in there. I don't remember offhand what we came up with on Park Ridge, but the road was not designed to have parking on both sides, obviously, and it's really not designed to have any parking. I mean, they're 12-foot drive lanes, but in the residential neighborhoods, we have not regulated on-street parking.
I think in the Park Ridge one that we dealt with, it was in their covenant that there was they were only allowed to park there so many hours within a 24-hour period or something like that. So I think a lot of those issues down there got taken care of through themselves.
Cindy, is that your area, or you're at large?
At large, yes, yes.
I was wondering if anybody knew who the homeowners association might be, like president or whatever, and we can get in touch with them.
That's a good thought, and I can find that out, and perhaps get the council representative in that area to also work with me on that.
I'd also ask that you get the city attorney involved
Sure.
to make sure that those restrictive covenants are what we want to do to solve that problem versus some type of ordinance that maybe in just certain areas there's no parking, maybe it's even certain times of the day. Jeremy and Jeff and Cindy, is it typically at these cul-de-sacs, and this isn't really a cul-de-sac, it's kind of it's a 90 degree, normally a cul-de-sac, you know, you can get down there and back out, but here, if you need to turn right, I assume that's where the concern is?
Yeah, it's the road heading down the slope there. The cul-de-sac can get through. It's heading on down to where it kind of dead ends because they haven't continued the construction to where they're supposed to be. It's supposed to actually drive all the way around and connect. They just haven't finished yet.
Well, yeah, I don't know that there's an issue by the cul-de-sacs. I think the biggest issue is if you park one car on one side and park another car on the other side, basically cut off 12 to 16 feet of a 24-foot drive lane.
I can't find the picture I had, but
Well, and certainly the mailboxes are there, that they have to have them open for the mail to get through there and give them their mail. Well, let's start with talking with the HOA and go from there and table this until next month.
sure, I'll work on that.
Okay. Next, Jack, you indicated that there was some discussion or wanted to discuss a light at Fisher Avenue and Kincaid Street on, this would be at, on Buffalo, right at? Where exactly would that be?
I received an email, which I believe has been forwarded on to the mayor as well. And I'm sorry, I should have gotten this out to everyone. This is from a concerned citizen, Ms. Cindy Guggenberg. Hope I didn't kill the name there. And I'll just read portions of it for you real here. This area, as you are probably aware, is quite congested. The streets of South Buffalo Ranch, South Lake, and Kincaid all connect to 15, or Fishers Avenue, in a very close manner. It's hard to get out of Fishers Avenue because of so many outlets and inlets. Currently, the Red Horse Lawn Furniture Store is for sale, as is the large blue building behind it. Has the city ever considered streamlining the area? All of the nearby streets are highly traveled. I feel the short street behind Red Horse could be eliminated. Long story short, there is a lot of congestion there. And there is a lot of passing on the berm, trying to get by, and I'm guilty of it as well, because of the amount of traffic and trying to get south on 15 there. However, it is a state road. So I don't know that there's a lot that we can do but I did want to bring it before the council or before the commission here and discuss what, if anything, we could do about it. So I'm just going to lay that out there for comments. I'm specifically interested in Jeremy and Jeff's positions on this.
I had mentioned to Jack when he forwarded to me that I certainly felt like the Indiana Department of Transportation would need to be involved in this decision because of the State Road 15. So that was my comment, and I'm sure Jeff and Jeremy, you can add to that.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a project. Obviously, we have concerns. I think we continue to share those concerns with to NDOT. I don't know that we have a whole lot of control over that specific intersection that would have to go through NDOT. I think we can certainly share our concerns with them and talk about options to make it better. But ultimately, any project that would be done would have to come from them.
Jeremy, could we potentially get MACOG to come down and maybe do some traffic numbers, movements, etc.? Would that be helpful? Or was that something, if we talk to NDOT, we could request them to do that? What would your thoughts be on that, you and Jeff?
Yeah, I absolutely think we can call Dana and have him down here and talk to him about our concerns, see if they'll do traffic counts, see what recommendations they would have, see how we can participate, if that's something we want to try to participate or kind of try to force their hand in. But still, it ultimately ends up, it has to be a project that gets put onto their transportation plan, program, and then funded. It wouldn't necessarily be coming from us.
Well, if we could do that, I would certainly be willing to go back to Mrs. Gutenberg and state, what we can, what we cannot do, and that we are required or requesting of the state to review it.
If we do a traffic study, it needs to be when the school is in session. It's dramatically different with the vehicles right now.
Well, this is true.
Chief Whitaker, you spend a lot of time down there as a crossing guard. What are your opinions?
Well, I'm in agreement with Captain Beam. I mean, it needs to be done when school's in session to look at it. But I don't know what the answer is there. There is a ton of traffic. Anything that would stop the flow of traffic even briefly would bottleneck, and it would be a much worse situation. So I do know that when the traffic is stopped briefly for crossing, that it backs up very quickly. So.
Scott, I got a question. Initially it kind of looked like maybe that would be a really great spot for a roundabout, but then taking back into account school and pedestrian traffic there, I'm not sure that's all that great either. What's your opinion about that?
I honestly don't have enough personal knowledge on the roundabouts, especially one that would entail a state road. But I know that the ones that we have installed in the city have worked out well. And but yeah, I really couldn't answer that question.
Yeah, I think the pedestrian traffic there would probably be the wild card.
Having worked on a couple of roundabouts, you can look at some roundabouts that the state have done. I think that would absolutely be a solution in that area. I think the challenge there is you do have semi-truck traffic, so the size of the roundabout would be pretty substantial to handle that semi-truck traffic. But in terms of safety, one, you're slowing down traffic. Two, when you're crossing pedestrians, they're no longer crossing 2 lanes of traffic. You can break that down into crossing 1 lane of traffic, so I think there's a safety mechanism in that. You're only looking one way for that traffic to come, which is why we installed the roundabout up at 300 North. So I think there's some legitimacy in that. I think it has to come from the state, and it's not going to be a small roundabout given the traffic that's on there. So that's another, you're talking about probably taking out some property in that area that would have to be acquired to do that.
Jeremy, I think there's also, and I'm asking you, is there a possibility that if they did come in and put a roundabout in, they could potentially close off one of those roads? Is that a possibility, the way that's all configured there with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 openings on the roundabout?
Yeah, absolutely. There would probably be some reconfiguring, because you're talking, if we're doing a roundabout there, you're probably buying both those commercial buildings. You might be shifting the road slightly. You're probably going to buy 2 or 3 of the corner properties. So you're going to end up with a pretty significant difference in the way it's routed, the roads are routed. But certainly from a safety standpoint, I would think that would be one of the better options.
For Chief Whitaker and Captain Beam, and do we have statistics to show that that is a area of concern with regards to either traffic or violations? Is that something maybe we should bring back to the Traffic Commission before we initiate an NDOT study? Just posing the question.
I don't have traffic stats as far as citations go, but there was 8 crashes there in the last 5 years.
And it is a school zone, Mayor, so you know, we do run a lot of traffic in that area as far as patrolling traffic stops. But yeah, I don't think that it's any higher than any other area on State Road 15. Would you agree, Joel?
I agree. Also, all of the crashes were property damage. There was no personal injury. There was no car pedestrians. There was no car bicyclists. One was even someone fell asleep. They weren't serious crashes.
I mean, I think that this Traffic Commission should consider if this is worthy of a discussion with NDOT. I wouldn't want to just say, okay, we'll call NDOT. I think that that we'd like to look at, if they believe it is an area, problem area that stands out more than others, you know, I'm certainly fine with that, but I think it should be a collective a consensus from the Traffic Commission before we get NDOT involved.
Joe, this is Jeff with the street. We did have quite an extensive discussion with NDOT, the school, and the city when it was initially talking about the school zone signs and the speed limits through there going down towards Logan. And I believe they already have studies for a lot of that. And, you know, I think in the past, one thing just to maybe bring up again to talk about is when we were initially, they were talking about the entrance to the school being adjusted, and in NDOT at the time, they're very, very resistant to make changes. And then Jerry knows it's a big deal, you know, to try to work with all that. Not that it's not needed, but I think it could be another look at again if the school's willing to look at how vehicular travel operates on their campus and to see if there's some way to get it over to Logan Street. And I know that's been talked about many times, and that's sort of why Logan Street was built. Is there a way to navigate that traffic off of Kincaid and back towards Logan somehow in that direction, you know, may be a more realistic, at least within the first 10 years of something maybe happening versus, you know, not saying don't look at Kincaid and what else we can do with it at 15, but I do think there may be options that could offer relief in a more short-term answer if we can try to get traffic heading over to Logan Street, which is signalized at 15 and is wide and open at both 25 and the road to the south, and to be able to handle all that traffic. This might be something to think about as well. So.
I think your comments are well taken. I know there was a lot of discussion with the schools in the city, again, trying to come up with a traffic plan for the campus. And again, I think it makes sense to maybe look at this in the context of all of that. David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do know a lot of modifications have already been made, and almost all of our high school student traffic bails out through Logan, as well as our bus traffic. My guess is where most of the traffic comes out on Kincaid at the end of the day is from, because we already close off the exit from Washington there on Kincaid. So it's probably coming out of that the corner there of Kincaid and Union. And again, that's off of our campus. I don't know from a jurisdiction standpoint that we can close down a street and force it down Union, but all of our busing we've rerouted over the last couple of years, and then the high school student traffic exits to the south out of Logan as well. There is some that comes out. The original request, and Jeff Beeler's right, we had a lengthy interchange with the Department of Transportation about the Tiger Lane entryway, and that was the original concern we had there, and we still do have quite a bit of traffic there as well. So, yeah, we're open to continuing to modify things and restrict down openings where we can, and try to keep things flowing as best as possible.
So members, do we think that we need to have some more discussion about this before we go to NDOT? Or what are your ideas? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think Joe is probably correct there as far as we need to make sure we got the data that we need. It sounds like we've got some. I don't know if we've got everything that we need before we go to NDOT. What would we need, do you think?
Well, when NDOT comes in, they're going to want to do all their own stuff. So I don't think it's bad to try to help provide stuff to maybe sway their acceleration of gathering data or try to plead our case. I think that's always important. But also NDOT kind of moves at their own speed. And to Mr. Robinson's idea, I don't know if trying to push everyone down Union Street and blockading the road during those school let-out times, I think that's been done other places, and that might be a wise decision, especially with the changes we made down at Union to try to help traffic only be able to turn right, stop the traffic from shooting straight across. And then Prairie Street is right off of Union. That does go to a signalized intersection at 15. So, maybe, using that idea and then trying or forcing some of that school traffic to use Union Street, and then, maybe even posting a sign that says at Prairie Street, this goes to 15, just to let people know that there is an alternative dive off there rather than going to 25, and that maybe would be something that offers, a lot of relief at that intersection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd be open to that. That might be something I could get with Joel and Scott on to talk about how that would look as far as the being able to close that off and enforce it. But yeah, we would most definitely be open to routing traffic down that way. It really makes it easier for our walkers there as well, and so we feel like it would be a little bit of a safer situation anyways.
And I'd like to comment too that I don't think we should get tunnel vision as far as thinking about the school being the only problem here too. I can tell you, for instance, on Sunday mornings coming into town from say WCC. I don't go to church there, but I go to the smaller one to the north. There will be traffic lined up all the way from the intersection there. Many times, at least half, if not 3/4 of the way back to the railroad track. That's one thing. Coming home of an evening, and this would be after school's let out, people going south on Fisher Avenue there. Many times people are queued up and waiting to turn left to get onto Ranch Road, leaving a lot of the traffic going south backing up as well. So I guess I'm just saying all this just to make sure that we realize that it's not just at school time in the morning and the afternoon. There are some other significant problems there that could be addressed as well. Just throwing that out.
So where do we need to go from here?
I still think that